Fairfax, Mr. Surovell.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege and a motion.
The gentleman has the floor.
As the body is now aware, my district is the home to many things that are the best in the Commonwealth and unique. Today, everybody knows, is February 21st. It would have been the 279th birthday of General George Washington. And as the delegate who represents all 5 farms of the Mount Vernon estate, I thought that's something we ought to recognize today. General Washington was born in a time when it was very different. He was born in Colonial Beach, Virginia, grew up near Falmouth, Ferry Farm. 3 of his 9 siblings died before they reached adulthood. His father died when he was 11 years old. He was actually educated only until he was about 15 years old in Fredericksburg. Unlike his brothers who were educated in England, he was educated locally. There's a lot of myths about General Washington, which many of you probably know aren't true, but I'll just point out a couple of them. Number one, don't tell your kids this, but he probably did not chop down a cherry tree. He also didn't have wooden teeth. He had teeth that were made out of hippopotamus ivory and metal and springs and things, but not wood. He also did not throw a silver dollar across the Potomac. Not even Stephen Strasburg could do that, at least down where I live. However, the rumor has it, Mr. Speaker may know this, but he threw a piece of slate across the Rappahannock near Ferry Farm, which is actually something maybe somebody possibly could do. He did not wear a wig. He did powder his hair, which was the style back then, which he wore in a ponytail. He's not buried in the United States Capitol, which some people believe. He's actually buried in a tomb in my district on the Mount Vernon estate. And one thing which I think is important about General Washington is that he was the only of the early presidents who actually freed his slaves. At the moment when he died, he was actually a wealthy man. He'd made a lot of money farming, making whiskey. Unlike Thomas Jefferson and some other founding fathers, he was able to not only free his slaves, but provide for them. And they founded a community in my district called Gum Springs, which still exists today. It's one of the oldest historically black communities in Virginia. It still exists in my district today. And one of the things that struck me during orientation when I came down here before I was sworn in was the presence of this man in our Capitol. We have a statue to him on Capitol Square. We also have the statue of him in the rotunda by Jean-Antoine Houdon, who modeled it in 1985 at Mount Vernon. And I believe the clerk told us it's the only statue of General Washington which was modeled on him during his lifetime. It's the most valuable piece of art in the Capitol. You all know he was the first president of our country. He was the general of the Continental Army. He chaired the Constitutional Convention, which gives us the Constitution, which our government's based on today. And he was our first president. And while it's unlikely that anyone in this chamber will ever have the impact on our country and on our state that General Washington did, I think it's important that every year we recognize his sacrifice, accomplishment, the leadership he exercised by this most unique Virginian who ultimately became the father of our country. Mr. Speaker, with that, I would move that we adjourn in the honor and memory of General George Washington.
The gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Surovell, moves that when the House adjourned today, we adjourn in the honor and the memory of George Washington, who grew up in Stafford County. As many as favor that motion will please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion's read.